So settle in, friends. This is going to be a long one because it's about my amazing mom and the eulogy that I was blessed to write when she went to heaven 7 years ago. Okay. And I share this every year as I just continue to marvel at what that incredible loss, that time in my life, has propelled me to do. And every year, this is actually the first time I've done a video about it. It's interesting what God's doing in that space. And, something that's coming up for me this year is that we have a choice every single day to live as an active participant in this one beautiful life that we are blessed with, right? Or to live as a bystander on the sidelines. So let's talk about what's happened in the last 12 months. Truly some of the greatest challenges I've ever faced in my personal life. And yet God has continued to just be there, meet me where I'm at, and is faithfully leading me through. I've developed a even stronger mindset that keeps asking, Lord, what will you do with the good, the hardships? What will you do? What are you teaching me? What are you showing me? What lessons do I get to learn? And God continues to expand the vision of our mission as well, to create this tribe of 7-figure givers in my heart. It keeps getting bigger. And what I've learned this year, I just see how time is not the same in God's kingdom. So, this past year, the Kingdom Wealth Creator Workshop series was birthed, and it launches actually a live version of it next week. I'm going to be flying out to Pittsburgh and sharing the good news of what I've been doing online for several years at a women's retreat where I get to serve as a guest teacher and mentor. The Reimagine the American Dream series has launched. Our new Valorum YouTube series has launched around teaching people to build wealth differently. Our program to help companies explore alternatives to the traditional 401k has really taken flight, and our team has multiplied substantially. And more of our agents, what I love the most is that more of our agents are taking territory for the kingdom of God. Maybe most importantly, my hubby and I, we have found a new home church where the Holy Spirit is really, really, is just so active and present, and is really, as much as we'll allow him to, is allowing the Holy Spirit to take reins in our lives in a really powerful way. And continue to say what I've learned the most this past year is that my mom's unconditional love is my great superpower. And I ask you, friends, what have you allowed grief to do in your life? Has it paralyzed you or has it fueled you? Because I'm one of those lucky girls who got to call her mom her best friend. I can't fully explain who my mom was to me because she was so many things. She was my mom. She was my best friend, my confidant, my role model. My lens that I look at Jesus through, one of my absolute greatest joys. And I remember asking my brother at her funeral, how in the world did we get so lucky to be chosen as this woman's children? We got to spend our lives being her pride and joy and feeling her just unconditional love and learning. My mom had this way of, she was just this lifelong learner. just deeply wise. And she played so many roles in our lives, and she taught us so many lessons, and she still brings so much laughter to my life. She was an amazing sister. She was an amazing daughter. I remember, stories about when her and Daddy moved to Alaska. That's where I'm from. In 1969, it was hard on her family. She moved from Montana, but it really changed the trajectory of so many people's lives because she changed how my grandparents lived their retirement. She took my brother and I to Montana every other summer, and we were so fortunate living so far away. We were so fortunate to know our Montana cousins really well. We had so many camping trips and family reunions in Lake Blaine and Flathead Lake and Glacier Park in Montana and Whitefish. And my grandma and grandpa on alternate years would come to Alaska. So I got to grow up clamming and fishing and crabbing and just living the life of Alaskans. This beautiful outdoor living on the Kenai and the Russian River and Homer and Seward. Anyone that ever goes to Alaska, you need to make sure and call me because I'll give you all the tips. My mom's claim to fame when on the river in Kenai, she caught a 52-pound king salmon. That was her biggest fish. And one of my earliest memories is doing these little interviews with my mom. This was the days where you would have actual tapes. Children, you might not even know what this is. Tape recordings, and she would record me and send them home to my Montana family. And these were the days when literally we might only call my grandparents on Christmas and Easter. And I will forever be so grateful for all the family reunions. Mom helped plan with her siblings. And now it's up to me, and my cousin Christy and I have kind of taken the reins to carry that flag. We actually need to schedule one, Christy. But my mom she was a lifelong learner. She was always working on herself and how she could move forward in life. And she taught me how to stay curious, stay humble. And my mom was just curious about so many things. She believed that there was something to learn from everything and everyone. And she was always seeking to understand, to expand her perspective, and, just see the world through all ages and walks of life. My kids were so, so lucky to have such a Grammy that was so present with them. Mom, she also taught me just incredible gifts around compassion and forgiveness. That is just like the high road that Mom used. And always to, when you can, humanly possible, focused on the best in people. Even the ones, in fact, even more the ones that I would say caused her pain. She had this unbelievable capacity for compassion, for people's shortcomings, and always reach towards union. How can we be united? How can we find something in common? And she did not take offense easily. That was really a blessing that I picked up early in life. She was very, very slow to judge when someone was hurtful. Don't get me wrong, my mom wasn't a saint. She was quick to remind us, though, that we never really know another person's truth. Where that pain is coming from. Only God knows. And my mom, she really took her responsible parent duties very seriously, but she was so much fun. She was equally the fun mom. Some of my best memories from childhood, I had so many fun ski trips. We got to do a 14-day canoe trip down the Yukon River with my youth group. We had trips to Victory Bible Camp, tons of trips to Hawaii because that's where Alaskans go. It's only like a 6-hour flight. And I had the kind of mom that would drive me and my girlfriends in Anchorage. There was this road called the Drag, and she would literally scoot down in the front seat while she was driving because it was before we were driving. And so people would not see her, and she would drive us up and down that. Jen, do you remember that? Heidi, do you remember that? She started taking me on our first girls' trips when I was a freshman in college. And we went to Seattle, and it was literally when the movie Pretty Woman came out, and we got to go see that. And we had our first glass of champagne together. That's when I first learned that you are meant to drink champagne, and you are meant to look in one another's eyes and toast and say to life. And after that, we had so many mother-daughter weekends and spa retreats that, I mean, I'm just so blessed that we had those. About 10 years ago, she started joining my annual, gosh, no, it was more like 15, annual birthday trip with my girlfriends in Newport Beach. So it was lovely, as a lot of my friends knew my mom very well as well. We kind of stopped doing that when COVID hit, and we need to restart that, girls. But I am so blessed to have had a mom who knew my friends so well, and who my friends genuinely knew and loved too. And mom had this funny sense of humor. Her inner child was always ready to come out and play. She loved having her grandchildren. She would love to like have them teach her funny handshakes or the Macarena or the whip. She was also the first one to, take the kids down to the local store and get like ingredients for what's that thing? Oh, slime. She loved making slime, especially with Sierra. And the boys, especially painting rocks and digging for things and taking them outside when it's raining and watching what the water does on the street, setting up a lemonade stand. My mom also loved to sing and dance. And the best part was she danced like no one was watching and sang like no one was listening. And she will be the first to say she didn't have the most brilliant voice. She didn't care though, and that was the best part. And my mom's smile, it was so brilliant. Not because she had this big shiny white smile. I read something once about the gift of eye smiling. That's what my mom had. My mom had that in spades. I think of it now as like literally Jesus smiling from her eyes. And one time she compared her smile to mine, and it was just the biggest compliment for me. And I will tell you, my mom, she just loved unconditionally. That's what she taught me. And if my mom was one thing, it was love. She had this just deep love for everyone, and it was her answer to everything. And she gave it so naturally and freely, and there was never a day in my life when I questioned it. And I realized how powerful that is, how rare that is. And to whom much is expected, to whom much is given, much is expected. That verse keeps coming up for me as I was thinking about sharing this, because man, did she love me well. She loved me so well. And she wasn't afraid to show it. She showed it boldly to people. And also all the little tiny ways, like staying up with me and typing a paper for me until midnight because I wasn't a great typer, She was also there when you didn't necessarily need it. sometimes I would pick up the phone and I would be struggling with something and she didn't have the answer. But you know what she would tell me, honey? I think this is a great time to just go lay on your bed and have a really good cry. My mom was so good at giving just silly advice like that that just meant so much. And she never turned her back on anyone. I mean, at her funeral, the number of people that were in that room was a testament to that. And Mom taught me so well how to live with integrity. I remember so many conversations where I would vent to her about something going on in my life, and she would just listen. And she would always ask me if I wanted her advice before she gave it. Maybe not always. She asked me that most often. And she had this just incredible way of offering constructive feedback, but also helping me see, like, what is God teaching me in this time? What does He want me to learn? And reassuring me that He was there in the hard stuff as well. She told me so many occasions just to try your best to embrace this adversity, because she knew firsthand my mom had very, very difficult times in her life, and she knew firsthand that's where He met her on so many occasions. And it can be a gift if we let it be. She taught me that lesson over and over and over again. And just as much as my mom was gentle and loving, she was super strong. She was a fighter. She took on every challenge with grace. When she learned that she had cancer, she did not just sit back and let it take her, right? She fought. And I remember once she sent me an email that I actually just came across recently. And she said, honey, this time too shall pass. And I heard her say that so many times. And all of life's challenges are rites of passage to the next chapter. They are lessons to learn from and to come out the other side with greater wisdom. Despite some of the ugliness of her cancer diagnosis, I will say I celebrated with her for 10 months as we did life during that cancer battle. And it was truly some of the most profound and blessed times of my life, helping my mom make her way into heaven. For the first time ever, my ex-husband had this great thing he would say about my mom, that Sue was an over communicator. And for the first time ever, my mom spent more time listening. My mom was a good listener, but she also had a lot of words, right? And the cancer, the brain tumor that she had, it was right in the center of her speech and logic area. So speech was difficult for her. And so she didn't have as many words that she could use. And my mom also went from being a nurse for 45 years, where she was used to being the caregiver, to being the care receiver and allowing us to give back even a portion of what she had poured into us, which was such a blessing. And I remember before writing her eulogy, I asked many of her friends and family what they remembered about my mom. And so many of them said how heard they felt with her, what a good listener she was. My Aunt Lisa said it really well. When Mom asked you how you were doing, she genuinely wanted to know. She would look in your eyes and she would listen. And there was purpose in her listening. She was such a good friend to so many people. And I was fortunate to shift from being not only her daughter, but also becoming her friend, her dear friend. And through her cancer journey, I just had this amazing privilege of getting to know so many of her special friends that would come and visit her. I went home 8 times in 10 months from California to Alaska. And I got to have so much time with her friends as well. And I remember once when Sierra Grace was little, she said, Grammy, who's your best friend? And Mom told her she had lots of best friends. Jesus was her bestest friend. But there was room for as many friends as you wanted in your life. And she taught me so well how to be a good friend and a good mom. And someday I get to be a Grammy too, like she is. And I'm not sure Mom could have been any happier than when she was with her family. Surrounded by her kids and her grandkids, whether it was, cheering from the sidelines at my soccer games and gymnastics. And by the way, I was really never that good at any of those sports, but she always told me I was the best. She went to so many concerts and musical events, which I was pretty good at, but somehow Mom always just made it seem like I was the only one on the stage that she was watching. She was such an amazing prayer warrior, and she counseled so many people about the power of waiting. Waiting is very difficult, but wow, is it powerful. And there's so many answered prayers that have happened in that waiting time. I spoke with Mom almost every single day of my life, and I miss her. And looking back, I realized that many of our conversations in those final years included Daddy on the speakerphone as well. And I sometimes wonder if part of her knew we would need to learn how to stay connected together when she was gone. And I have a few memories, one in particular of the time that she was sick. It was actually the last time I visited her, and we spent a lot of time lying together on her bed. Daddy would come in and bring a chair and sit on the chair next to us. And at one point, I remember I just started bawling. I was crying so hard, and she just put her arms around me in that way that she did, that hug that just felt like all the world had no problems whatsoever. And she motioned for Daddy to come and lie down too. And they just held me while I cried. It was like I was a little baby again. Isn't it funny how we return to our childhood in moments like that? And what a privilege to cry together. And quite frankly, even begin mourning the loss of Mom while she was still with us. And one day, shortly after her diagnosis, she called me crying so hard, right? I could barely understand her. Once she calmed down, she told me they were tears of joy because Daddy had finally cried. And she said, it was a good cry, honey. And she was right. Whenever I have a good cry, I feel better. I'll tell you one last thing before we wrap. After that special time when her and Daddy held me, Mom really wasn't able to speak very well the last couple of months of her life. And there was a moment that her voice was as clear as could be, and she just said, honey, I'm ready for heaven. And she was so at peace and so confident. I cannot imagine what her loss would feel like if I were not certain that I would see her again. And I know we'll be dancing together and drinking our favorite cook's champagne that's super cheap. We don't like the expensive stuff. And one thing's for sure, I'm going to make sure that the time that I have left on this planet counts. So friends, this is the annual one, first video about it. I hope just hearing my mom's story continues to give you hope in your life. You are God's masterpiece. I hope you know that. And if no one's ever told you that, then I'm telling you. Blessings, everyone, in this amazing life journey, and I will see you soon.